Good morning. It is raining cats and dogs here in St. Louis, Missouri. My manager just texted both me and my counterpart, and she's like, hey, weather's nasty. Which one of you want to stay home? My counterpart said she'd stay home, and I'm like, I will brave coming in. I need the income, even if it's only $15 today. But raining cats and dogs, I am so glad. Over the weekend, I planted potatoes and onions. I have garlic that I still need to plant. I was waiting for the shoots to come up a little bit more, and I've got some green onions that I've restarted from a bunch that I bought at the produce place. And then this weekend, I think I'll still work on my seedlings, although I was told I can put my cannas in the ground now. And I think maybe frost might be behind us, but I'm not real sure. I know yesterday it was beautiful. I had a cute little sleeveless little jumper on it and went to work with my little white tennis shoes. And today it is cold and I am back in my long sleeve, long pant leg jeans because it's cold. This weather though, and I was looking for the flyer. I know it's here. I don't get rid of anything. I'm not a hoarder, but I keep all my travel things like in a certain area, and for whatever reason I can't find the flyer because I wanted to tell you about it, to show it to you, and then I went to go look online and I didn't see anything online, so I don't know. But anyway, this weather reminds me of a trip that my person and I made going to Mountain Home, Arkansas. Cute little resort called The Cove on Norfolk Lake. I think I said that right. Is it Norfolk or is it Norfolk? You tell me. I don't know. But anyway, it was our last fishing trip of the season, and it was early October. Fall was just on that brink of it was still nice, and then it wasn't. And we got down there, and it was beautiful, just like yesterday. And then within a matter of 24 hours, it got cold, and all of a sudden the leaves were like orange and the beautiful burgundy color. And I remember drinking coffee on their little porch. It was just the cutest little cove. Now, Mountain Grove, Arkansas. Don't confuse that with Mountain View, Missouri, because that's a whole other tragedy of a trip, although I enjoyed bits and pieces of it. Our experience at the hotel was not great at all. But anyway, Mountain View, Arkansas, it is the capital of retirement centers and nursing homes and hospitals. And if you're going to retire anywhere, Mountain Home, Arkansas is the place to go. But who knew? And I was looking this morning, and apparently they have a whole bunch of new shops that they put in that strip right there. And because when we were there, they had a Starbucks, I think. They had an antique store. They might have had a grocery store. And we didn't get to explore real well throughout the rest of the town because we were there to fish. We were there just to kind of, take a break from life. Cute, just a cute layout. They had the home that they lived in, the people that owned the place, they stayed on the property. And then there was a modular home that they had built onto, just darling. And then they had another larger home, like if you had a family. And I think at one time there was a pool, but they did away with the pool, but they had a pool table and all kinds of arcade things in that particular home. And if I find that flyer the next time I come on, I will show it to you because I highly, highly recommend it. The Cove in Mountain Home, Arkansas. I get it confused with Mountain View, Missouri. Again, that's a whole other story. But it's cold. It is absolutely cold. I have a few minutes this morning before I go into the job. We'll see how today is. I want to remind everybody, as the weather is getting nicer, you have a large group of people. Do yourself a favor. Make a reservation. You got a party of 6 or more. Common courtesy says, call the restaurant ahead of time. Excuse me. The weather changed. Do the restaurant a favor. Give them a heads up. You got a bigger party coming in, so the kitchen knows how to prepare for your group. Had a very lovely group of 11 yesterday that just walked in all nilly-willy. A couple ladies came in first, and I said, oh, how many do you have? 2? And she was like, no, actually, we have 11. It is very hard at this point in life, in my life, not to have a certain look on my face. Politely and gently, I say, did you make a reservation? Are you in our book? And she was like, no, I didn't think we needed to. I said, give me time, let me get something set up, because we're not going to turn anybody away, because that would be really rude unless you didn't have the time or the space. And because business has been rather slow, we appreciate those walk-ins. Common courtesy says, if you have a larger group, just call the restaurant. They will still accommodate you, but let them know you are coming. Then, also, before you get there, decide if you have a group of 6 or more. Do not ask your server to split your checks individually. The restaurant is more than happy to split it by 2, by 4, one amount, split it by however many. But it is time consuming, and it is it is just rude when you have a group of 15 and 20 and you want individual checks. Make those arrangements before you get to the restaurant and let your server know. So as I was setting these people at their table, I just kind of gave them a heads up. Hey, the next time, that you have a big group, just please give us a call. Heads up that you're coming in. We appreciate your business, but help us to help you so you get better service and quicker food out of the kitchen. Again, sorry. Yesterday, it was absolutely beautiful. Today, not so. Great weather if you're a duck. Saw the turkey running around in my field over the weekend. I only saw one. I think it was a female. Usually you hear them cackling. They are the ugliest birds I've ever seen, but they are rather entertaining. The deer have been out there. Went to go get fitted for another set of contacts. God love this doctor. She's wonderful. The whole place, they're just wonderful. I walk in the door and they're like, hi, how are you? Welcome back. I've been there a million times now. The contacts are almost where they need to be. We have fine-tuned so much. The left eye is still not clear, and the set that they gave me, I can see far away, but after I wear them a while, I get this film across my eye because it's still too blurry, and then she was tweaking the right one. Hopefully in the next week and a half, 2 weeks, I'll have the perfect set of contacts. We will hope. And then, then we got to figure out what we're doing with the hair color. I like the gray that's coming in. It's a lot of it. I like the blonde, but the blonde sometimes is a little too yellow. And if you match, this is so superficial, but if you take that yellow blonde and match it into the gray, it just doesn't work. So I do have a toner that I might try to go in and add some toner to take some of the yellow out to see if it matches some of the gray. Then let it grow a little bit and then low light it because I like the base color. It is a 6NN mixed with a 5N Sally Beauty. Trying to save myself a little bit of money, and since I know how to do my hair mostly color-wise. I do try to trim on it. Letting all of these things grow, still trying to let it grow. With it raining today, the hair is up on top of my head. So those are all the superficial things that I have going on. In my sewing room, if it continues to rain and the weather drops, I did find a pattern that I have in my house because I am going to sew. I've convinced myself I am going to sew. So as the weather is getting cooler, I'm going to redo this room one more time. And I have off-white paint to paint the other rooms, and I want to paint my dressers. I've been wanting to do that for a million years, but don't fall. Okay, so I had this pattern that I bought. It's got always patterns for anybody who doesn't sew or anybody who wants to learn. Patterns usually have several different options. So, and because I am in the stress era, my little homestead life that I think I live in my head, I'm going to take this top and I'm going to make it into a dress. This is a drop waist, which I don't want. I don't want a drop waist like this. That's a drop waist. Sorry for the glare. So I think I'm going to do that. I don't think I want cap sleeves, although I think that is really cute. I don't mind the cap sleeves on that. Maybe I can do that with a ruffle. So the plan is, if you get butcher paper, this is onion skin. That's what my grandma used to call it. You always want to make sure that you iron out your pattern so it lays flat on your material. But if you get butcher block paper, you can use it to redefine your pattern, to extend it. And I think I have parchment paper that also works. But I need to get some butcher block, some butcher block. And then I still think I'm going to order that other pattern that I talked about the other day on Amazon, the other dress one. Why not? What else am I doing? Once I find that flyer, though, for the Cove, because it's close enough. It's not quite into Branson or Springfield because you veer over some other back road, but there's a very good possibility I might book that and try to get away for 4 days. Maybe. We'll see. Also, I'm trying to find the information on Gasconade Resort. Another lovely, lovely little fishing spot. They were bought out. Now, I had been there a couple times with my person. We took the boat one time. We camped another time. But somebody bought them out. And the new owners have been there for 5 years now. And they redid the cabins. They redid the campground. Now, I can't float by myself. And I'm dangerous in a canoe to begin with somebody else. And I always sit up in the front with my drink, my swimsuit on, and I lounge. Spoiled princess boat girl that I am. But anyway, I'm trying to find that information again. And I have all these flyers somewhere because I do not get rid of all of my travel information. When I was doing photography, when I was in the thick of doing photography, it's important that you document where you are. And when you go to talk about it, creating content, you're able to give these really, really good reviews. And, my content is about lifestyle, living a certain way, living a very simple life, but really making it look like it's just spectacular, when it's really not. It's just when you choose not to be a couch potato, when you choose to participate in life, you take advantage of all those gifts and talents that you know how to do. And there's just something about fishing, being a fisher girl. I've said, my dad always said I was the next best thing to a son. I can outfish pretty much everybody. Those little getaways are important, especially when you are able to build your income based on that lifestyle that you are living. And I do want to get to Bass Pro. Oh, I don't know. I still have time before it's actually real fishing season for me, because I am a warm-weathered girl. I want to go check out that she fish line. And there's a couple rods and reels I think this girl needs. What else did I see? Something that was rather... my birthday's July 17th. Pierre Marquette in Illinois, in the Grafton side, Alton side of Illinois. They are having an Elvis impersonator. If you have never been to Pierre Marquette between Alton and Grafton, do yourself a favor, take that drive. It is a lovely, I've never stayed there, but the grounds are just lovely. And there's some really, really good restaurants and dive-ass taverns if you're into that along that little strip. But I'm kind of hoping for my birthday this year, that might be where I want to go. So we'll see. I have time. This is April 1st. Happy April Fool's Day. Of course, it's raining cats and dogs. I'm sure my brewers will be full of themselves today because they are a comical kind of bunch. So that's what I got working on here in the homestead. Was having a couple conversations with the CEO yesterday and the owner, and I think at this point they just want me to zip it. Because I was like, blah, 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 trying to talk about business, trying to talk about a direction, trying to talk about where I want to move and how I want to live life. And I was spewing off some logistics and, accounting numbers and how it's applying to unemployment. And they're looking at each other and they're like, my God, how do you know all this stuff? And I'm like, and I have to really, really watch myself because my humor borderlines sarcasm that can be taken very wrong. And just flatly, I looked at the owner and I just said, do not ever question my intelligence. And they both started laughing. They were like, we're not. So that's what's going on in that aspect. Was going down the rabbit hole in social media on the psychology side of things. Still getting the blue-collar worker things, which I'm just so familiar with. And I know the mindset, and now it's just rather humorous. I see that there is a whole generation who cannot figure out, younger generation, why they cannot couple up with somebody. What part of who they are and the environment in which they grew up in is no longer aligning with the life that they are wanting to live. And I guess before I get any further into this, I'm Kitryn Marie, reside in St. Louis, Missouri. I'm an artist, writer, speaker, life and a business coach, published author when he had her available on Amazon, teach a variety of art and communication classes, gearing up to teach how to write a book and get it published. Anyway, there's my little background. There's my little spiel. So as these younger couples who are now in their later 20s and their 30s, and they're trying to figure out where do they find the correct person. And honestly, we've all been heartbroken. We've all been betrayed. We've all been let down. And it magnifies the older that you get. Because the older you get so set in your ways that you just look at everything as, this is how it is, and this is to be. And if you love me, you will accept me for how I am. That does not make you accountable or responsible for your bad behavior. That's just you manipulating whoever you're with to tolerate the bad behavior that you had picked up to protect yourself while you were growing up, while you were dating, while you were trying to find who you are and were as an individual, becoming the person that you are today. This younger generation, they don't want to meet their people in a bar. They don't want to meet their birthday cake girls or boys. They want people who come home after work. They want people who want to build these families. There is a very young generation who wants to have these families, who wants to have children. And even in my old age, I miss having small kids underneath me. Although, in retrospect, in the restaurant industry, I don't want to see one kid around me because of the bad parenting that is out there. If you're letting your kids run all nilly-willy, and that is my word of choice in the last couple weeks, that is poor parenting skills. If you are an adult and you are going out to enjoy an adult evening, you do not want to be surrounded by children and parents who do not want to parent their child. But the flip side of that is the younger generation who are wanting to have kids and wanting to do those family environments, having those family activities. And people, young people who, are in transition with their job, trying to figure out who they are and where they want to go and how they want to live and how they can afford to have a home, to have a homestead. I've seen a couple of people in my generation where they are willing to downsize. Their kids are grown, their grandkids, and they are getting rid of their big houses, where me, I've never really had a big house, and I'm still looking for that American dream house. I'm not willing to sacrifice my vision because somebody else needs to downsize and downplay their life. It is mentally expensive when you have decided this is the life you are going to live, and how are you going to provide for it. It is physically exhausting when you have to work a little bit harder at the job that you were doing in order to make the money to provide. What did I see? The average person, because I'm always doing statistics, logistics, and economy stuff. The average person, in order to survive with a $1,500 mortgage payment with no credit card debt, no pets, no kids, can live on $25 an hour. I have pets. I have a mortgage. I have one child at home, but he is self-contained. He pretty much takes care of himself. I don't really have to do too much for him. That $25 an hour, that $30 an hour, that suits my lifestyle just fine. Being in the restaurant industry, nickels and dimes and stretching, the environment is getting very difficult. It goes back to people aren't tipping, customers aren't coming in the way that they are. But we have this younger generation who is not going out, who is trying to build some portfolio, and they are not able to do it on $15 and $16 and $17 an hour. So those that are wanting to couple up, who are looking for that long-term longevity because they saw the mistakes of their parents and their grandparents and their aunts and their uncles, because look to see who your role models were in life, and then take a good look at who you are as an individual and what you believe to be okay with the relationship that you were trying to get yourself into. That's a lot. I had an aunt, God love her, she was my godmother. Her and I were 16 years apart. This woman taught me how to make the rules, break the rules, change the rules to accommodate whoever or whatever you have in your life, because you are responsible for yourself. And if you don't like it, you get to change it. Well, guess what? That's exactly what I have done. Now, also, this is a woman who was married 4 times. 4 times, I think, to the same man. And then, sadly, she passed away. And his big claim was, I could always get her back, but this time I cannot. And then when you were ending all of those relationships, what does closure look like? It's having a conversation, a very deep psychological conversation with somebody about being intuitive and understanding limerence because you are familiar with patterns and those relationships where it's constantly a swinging door, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and somebody just leaves out of nowhere with no closure. In that limerence, you were looking for that person to return. You were waiting for that person to return. Now, being intuitive is knowing energy and knowing there's a shift amongst whoever it is, knowing that other person, which connects to that string theory. You can go miles away, you can go years away, you can live across the states, across the country. But once you are connected to somebody, that red string still stays connected. And as you are intuitive and you can feel that other person's energy, and you know that other person is longing because there is a hole that they created themselves by abandoning and sabotaging the situation. And so many people, because they are used to that trauma bond, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, people trying to establish their territory, their plot, their lot in life, what they're looking for in those relationships, you have to stop and think. If you are actually feeling that other person, are you recognizing that pattern because that's the pattern that has been? Or are you understanding you were being intuitive and you have this energy because you are connected to that human being? And you know that human being so well, you know them in and out like second skin, and you know when they get to a point where they look at the life that they are living and they're like, I cannot do this anymore. And what I left and what I sabotaged and what I betrayed, the who, the what, the where, the why, the how, all the things I talk about and all the things I write and teach about, you stop and look at your own life. You stop and look at the patterns and you start to feel. Because it goes back to feeling is a choice. Feeling is a decision. Making that choice, making that decision based on a feeling because you have this emptiness inside of you. You know what you need. You know what you want. You know what you desire. But what are you willing to do to alter the way that you live life so you can have all those things? And these are things we talk about in my vision board class. Right there, vision board class. Teaching you what you have become aware of and how you have become who you are because of product and environment, because of those role models that have given grand examples in your life, shaping you to be the person that you are. And oftentimes, as somebody is waiting for closure, the closure in itself comes from the disrespect. When somebody just disappears on you, when somebody ghosts you, that very much says more about their character and their lack of accountability because they cannot face their own emotions. They can no longer deal with how their brain is telling them to run, to be free, to escape all the feelings that they are choosing not to make that decision on because that is what they've done their whole life. And typically it's an abandonment issue from very young age when a person cannot get their needs or their feelings met, matched, and they've been neglected. You know, it is a perpetual ball in motion. If you have been left as a child, odds are as you get to be older, you leave everybody who tries to love you. You disappear on anybody who's trying to give you a better life because it is what you were familiar with. Your parents weren't there for you. Therefore, you did not learn. That was not a good role model, and you never developed those bonds to keep you in a place, to keep you happy and healthy, to keep you fulfilled, unlike the hole you were feeling right now in the pit of your stomach. Because you know what's out there, you know what you want, you know what you need. So where is the closure? The closure comes from the disrespect because you could not regulate an emotion. You could not attach and commit to the things that you just want to feel, but you're not allowing yourself to feel. So, therefore, I am Kitryn Marie, an artist, writer, speaker, life, and a business coach. Reside in St. Louis, Missouri. Got to get out the door now. Been on here a half hour. For today, for tomorrow, be happy, be blessed, be thankful for everything. If you have an opportunity to get your family back, to do the right thing, do the right thing. You want that girl? Go get her. You want that guy? Make yourself available. Look and reflect at patterns and energy and understand, are you being intuitive? Are you really feeling that energy within that red string? Or are you just living in limerence because you are familiar with those patterns, and that back and forth has become the norm in your life? And I will remind you, there is nothing normal in this life other than a setting on a dryer. So fate turns on a dime. It's up to you to decide what side of the coin you want to live on. Flip the coin. And as soon as I find those flyers for those places that I want to book and get back to, I'll let you know. But take care, and I'll see you real soon. And if it is raining cats and dogs in whatever area you're living in, stay dry. Take care. See you soon.